Hi Booktube, it is Nadine. Welcome or welcome back to Widely Reading. And today I am going to do the mid-year freakout tag. And this is a tag that is so old that nobody knows where it comes from or who made it. But I found it on the channel Quaint and Curious Volumes. And so, before I get to the questions, I just want to consider whether I'm actually freaking out. And I wasn't before I started working on this, but now I'm a little concerned because I discovered when I added it up that I have read a total of 35 books, not including 3 DNFs. And that's kind of low for me. Since I retired about 7 years ago, I usually read between 90 and 100 books. And even when I was working, I started keeping track around 2006, and I read between 30 and 32 books a year. And I would like to read more. When you consider, if you do the math, there's only a few thousand books to be read before you die, and I'd like to pick up the pace. So we'll see. I don't want to go back to my 90 to 100. I still want Booktube to slow me down and make me read more intentionally, but maybe I can do a little goosing of the tempo. So, questions. First question: what is the best book that you read so far this year? And that would be Tyll by one of my favorite authors, Kehlmann. It's translated from the German by Ross Benjamin, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detailed description of the books I'll be talking about, but I will link to my Goodreads reviews. And I'm not going to link to my Booktube videos just because I've only made about a dozen, and I think that my Goodreads reviews are more thorough, likely more coherent too. So if you're interested, you can look at any of those reviews. All right, second, what is the best sequel you've read so far? And that would be This Brutal Moon by Bethany Jacobs, and it is the third in the Kinship trilogy. I think that's what it's called. And this is a space opera, and it follows the usual space opera tropes, but she does it in such a refreshing and different way that it all felt totally new to me. The only complaint I would have about the series are the names. The first is These Burning Stars, which is a good one, and it won the Arthur C. Clarke Award, by the way. But the other ones, I think it's On Vicious Moons, and then this one, the titles are not crazy about the titles, but that's only like 7 words out of this whole trilogy, so not a big complaint. Next, and the other thing I wanted to say, now that I think about it, is to compare it, what I could compare it to. And I would say Anne Leckie's Ancillary Justice series, that's probably the closest, at least for me. Next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to, and that would be Gliff, the GLYPH, because I read the GLIFF version last year, and it is by my favorite author, Allie Smith, and I'm having a year of Allie Smith, so I'm trying to read as much of her stuff as I can. Next question, what is the biggest disappointment? My biggest disappointment, sadly, was 5 Little Pigs by Agatha Christie. And I want to get on the Agatha Christie fan train. I want to love her, but I have just not found my gateway book. So if you have any thoughts about what is a good one to start with or what is her best one, let me know. Next question is, what book was your biggest surprise? And that was The Book of I by David Greig. And this is a novella, and it is part of a series called the Darkland Trilogy. And hi, buddy. So part of the Darkland Trilogy, and the independent Scottish publisher has asked well-known Scottish writers to write a short piece on some dark moment in either Scottish history or a legend. And this one picks a dark moment, but tells a very tongue-in-cheek and entertaining story. And David Greig is a playwright. It's actually his first novel, and this is it would make such a great play. There's so many set pieces that were just fantastic. The next question is, who is a favorite new or new to you author? And for that, I'm going with Dennard Dayle, and he is a Jamaican-American writer, and he writes satire, at least so far. He has 2 books. The first one is a satire of the Civil War called How to Dodge a Cannonball, and the second one is Everything Abridged, which is a book of short stories, but very cleverly arranged in a alphabetical dictionary way. Next question is favorite fictional crush. And I think the genres of books I read don't lend themselves to, I don't know, crush-worthy characters or something, and I tend not to get that emotional. I'm more in the like or dislike categories. Next question is, who is your new favorite character? And so far, I can't call him new because it's Tyll again, but he is definitely one of the greatest characters I've read because he is so uncanny. He's not a supernatural character, but he just appears when you least expect it and then disappears, and he has all these skills. He's a tightrope walker and a juggler, and he's just everything. He's great. Next question is, what is the book that made you cry, or the saddest book you've read? So I read a book called Poor Dear by Oshetsky, and I was putting it off because I thought it would be so sad, and I'm very rarely prepared for sad. Some people love to read sad things, and I guess cathartically cry or something, but I'm not one of them. But I did read this, and I was really pleased and surprised because while the overall subject is sad, it is not really a sad book. It's really kind of hopeful actually by the end. And I'm going to be making, my next video is going to include that one. The next book is a book that made you happy. And for that, I'm going to go back to Everything Abridged by Dennard Dayle because I want to give him another plug. Next question is favorite book to film adaptation you saw this year. So I'm going to have to partly cheat because I didn't see any movies that were book adaptations yet this year, but I did read Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, and so the tie-in with that is my favorite movie, one of my all-time favorites, Blade Runner. Next question is favorite review you've written this year, or BookTube version favorite video you've done. So I've only made about a dozen videos, so I'm not going to pick one of those. And I've written a zillion Goodreads reviews over the years, and I definitely prefer them, if only because they're much more detailed, probably quite a bit more coherent than my BookTube video, and they also include a lot of quotes from the books, and the writing is always the most important thing for me in a book, and so that's why I do a lot of quoting, and I do some of that in my videos, but not nearly as much, and it's probably more pleasant to read them than to hear my great thespian skills reading them aloud. Next question is, what's the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year? I tend not to buy books that I would consider beautiful, art books or something like that, but a few years ago I have a favorite, and I buy it for everybody when I can. It's called Soa's Ark, and he's a German painter, and the pictures are so whimsical. They're kind of like part Vermeer, part Far Side, or something, and let me show you a few. Hi there, it's future editing me, and showing you the pictures in the book did not work at all. And so instead I'm going to show you some slides, and you can see for yourself what it's like. I find his artwork, I don't know, kind of comically melancholy, and in any case very arresting. The last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I am a very mercurial mood reader, so there's usually no needing to read. The needing to read days were for work, and I'm glad that's over. But I will consider the couple of challenges that I'm doing as my need to reads, or want to read. And one of those is the Candy Reading Challenge, and it's a month-by-month challenge from the Booktube channel, The Great Literary Rabbit Hole. And I love it because they're broad enough that you can really find something on your own shelves. Because that's my one determined point in doing these challenges, is they will all come from my IRL bookshelves, TBR shelves. So the June challenge is June the Tune, so anything dealing with music. And I didn't think I had any, but actually I found 3. And at first I was going to read Mr. Beethoven by Paul Griffiths. This is a small UK press published book, and it's the story of the fictional story of Beethoven's trip to the United States, which apparently he was going to be making, but he died. And so this imagines what that trip would have been like. Another one is Sonata Mulatica, which is by Rita Dove, and it is a novel told in verse about, links to Beethoven, about a violin prodigy named George Polgreen Bridgetower. And unusual in the 1700s, he was a black musician, and Beethoven was so bowled over by him that apparently he wrote a sonata just for him, and then they had a big falling out. I'll know more about it after I read it. And lastly, this is the one I'm almost surely going to pick, which is Rameau's Nephew by Diderot, Denis Diderot. And I read it many years ago in an undergrad English class, and I remember it as just being hysterical, so funny. And it's short. That's not a small thing. Joke there. And then the other challenge that I'm doing is the Summer Big Books Reading Challenge, and I'm currently reading one that will meet that requirement, but I also want to read several others. So Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson, and I'm just going to cycle through these fast because I actually made a video about the Summer Reading Challenge. Cuddy, which I'm not sure was in that video, but Benjamin Myers, a very, very well-loved British writer who I haven't read yet. Ben Hopkins' Cathedral, which is about, it takes place over the course of a couple hundred years in the building of a German cathedral, and cast of thousands, hundreds maybe. All right, probably in the dozens, but I haven't read it yet. So last one, Moon Witch, Spider King, and this is the second in the series by Marlon James. The first one was Black Leopard, Red Wolf, and it is high fantasy set in an ancient fictional Africa. So those are my plans. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you're doing any of those challenges, or anything at all you want to share. So otherwise, be good, be well, be kind, as best you can. We all have our moments, and see you soon.